Hello friends, welcome to ASP.NET tutorial. In this video, we will learn about eval and bind expression. In ASP.NET, we can use the eval and bind expression to link a server control with the data. So here our FormView control comprises of many data bound fields right inside the form. So you can see it is using the eval and bind expression to deal with the underlying data source data. Eval expression is for fetching data from database and displaying it. So if this is your data source and here is our web form that contains multiple fields, right? With the eval you can fetch the data. So eval stands for evaluate, and based on this evaluate expression it retrieves a specific field from database and assigns that to a specific field in the form. Eval is read only because the data movement is one way from data source. The data get moved to your form and get displayed in a specific field. Eval is read only and the flow is only from data source to a specific control. The syntax here is %# and here you have to close it, right? Then eval db field name. So this db field name is the one that is configured in the data source control. That means in our SQL data source, if we picked a specific field from the data table or from the table, that name we have to specify here, right? And this will be part of our bound control that we will see when we are going to the demo. Alright, eval is one expression that's read only and data movement is one way. We can also use the bind to bind a specific control, right? And here the data movement is two-way. That means you can fetch data from a specific field and populate it, and once the field is modified you can push back the modified information to the database. So in that case you have to use the bind. So bind will also fetch data from the data source, right, like eval, but bind will do two-way data exchange. That means it will fetch data and display that in a field, and when you modify the field you have a way to push back the data to the data source. So that's how you can see bind will perform two-way data exchange. It can pull data from database, then it can push the modified data to the database. The syntax here is same, %#, but instead of eval here you have to use the bind, and the same db field name you can specify. So the moment you specify or associate a web form field with a bind, then the field becomes read write. That means you can read data from database, you can modify it, and then you can push back the data back to the database. We will use this expression with our FormView control in the coming videos. We are already using it, so we will just explore that here. Instead of use, let me keep explore. Alright, let's go to the demo. Alright, if you see, we are in the FormView control. Let me expand it further, and let me give you a sample run here. So let me pick some random record, and when I go for edit, you see the job ID I cannot change, but the other entry I can change, right? It's because this is a label, but at the same time we doesn't allow saving this or changing this ID and saving it back to the database. Let's see how the FormView control is doing this. Now let's go to the source view, and I'll go to the full screen mode. Here, if you see, we have many template, right? Let's pick edit item template, and inside the edit item template you can see there is a label and 3 text box control. The label control is used to display the ID field, right, from our data source control. The moment you associate the form view with the data source, it knows that this ID is the primary key and all insert, update and delete operations are going through this ID field. So the Visual Studio IDE provided a label, right? For other field it provided the text box. So in the edit item template it's a label, and if you see, this label control is associated to the job ID field of our data source, and here we are using the eval. That means from data source the job ID will be retrieved and displayed in the corresponding label control. And this is one way. We cannot modify the job ID and push it back to the database. Since it's a label, user cannot change it, and even if they access the label at runtime using this ID, they cannot push back the information back to the database. And others, if you see, we are using the bind, right? The same way, if we look at the item template, here everything is shown as bind, but these are all simply the label control, right? We can even change this as eval and display the content. So you can either use eval or bind. So if you want to make a specific field as read only, then you can go ahead with eval. So if you see, the item template is just working fine. That's all here in this video. Thank you for watching. Bye.